Yeah, I'm here at Balch Springs City Hall with Fire Marshal Sean and Davis. We just got out of a meeting here to discuss yesterday's firework. 9 homes were destroyed, and 18 other properties suffered damage. First of all, what's coming out of this meeting? Any news? Anything newsworthy?
So what we're doing with this meeting is kind of regrouping as city officials and determining, starting to sort through who needs resources immediately and who needs going to need resources long term, who's going to be permanently displaced until the homes are able to rebuild. So we're getting together and matching those occupants up with the appropriate resource help and everything that would, get them in the right places. So some of that's going to be Red Cross, neighborhood services, and various other groups that are going to be able to help these tenants or residents get to shelter and get back on their feet sooner.
You've mentioned a couple times that grass fires in general don't tend to be a big deal here. What was different about yesterday's fire?
Yesterday's fire had high winds. We had 18 to 20 mile an hour winds at the time of the fire. The wind speeds were peaking and dropping anywhere from 0 up to 20 and then dropping back to 0 throughout the whole day. At the time of the fire, we were peaking at an 18 to 20 mile an hour wind right from the south, pushing everything right directly into that neighborhood. We had heavy fire fuel on the ground with the cut grass, with the grass that was still there, all of it being dead and dried up. And then with the extreme drought conditions, it just all played and was a bad combination for everything.
Tell me about what it was like to be in the fire, actually battling it. In this morning's press conference, you described putting out a portion, stepping forward, and then immediately seeing where you were just standing.
Sure. Yeah. That and it I kind of, there was one point where we had transitioned over to the neighborhood, and I was trying to assist to drag a hose line up in between two houses to protect the back part of a structure, and couldn't get through because with just the heat blowing so hard, you couldn't breathe, you couldn't get into it, and it was like a super, I don't know, hair dryer or something, just blowing right into your face, and you couldn't catch your breath, and it was just extremely strange.
How do you fight it when it just keeps reigniting?
We don't. That's what makes it so difficult, and then having short staff and not having enough manpower kind of makes it difficult. Us only having one brush truck, and that having to, every time it would stop to refill, then whatever they had extinguished is kind of picking back up and building momentum again. So it was kind of just you just could never get ahead of it.
Let's talk about the resources. You said that at any given time, the city generally has about 8 people, 8 firefighters on duty. It has several trucks, but one brush truck that is specifically geared toward battling grass fires.
Yes.
You said over the phone with just one more brush truck and with a few more people, you think you might have been able to keep this to the grass?
Possibly, yes. I think we would have had a lot better chance if we would initially had at least 2 brush trucks on scene, and then even having a couple other people just to help kind of on ground doing handwork with hand tools and everything and dragging things out, and we would have probably been able to get to the head of the fire and get it stopped a lot quicker. Whereas with one, we're having to stop and completely pull out and refill and then get back engaged. If we would have had 2, they could have kind of been alternating so that someone's always extinguishing fire.
And there was a ladder truck that was there as well that you said just sort of got put back in service on Friday.
Correct. We have had some issues with the ladder truck. That would have been detrimental for us if we would have, not had that back in service. It played a significant role in the neighborhood once we transitioned to that area, to getting that aerial stream in the air to spray down on the rooftops of houses to keep them cool. Didn't have much reach, but we were able to span between 4 different houses, alternating just to try and keep fire off of the roofs.
When we were talking on the phone, you said that Balch Springs has had that staffing since about 2005, so almost 20
Correct.
years with that staffing. Talk to me about what's changed in that time.
In that time frame, we've done some studies recently and shown where from 2010, for instance, up until now, we've had an increase of about 4,000 calls a year more than what we were seeing back then. So just in a little over 10 years, our total, call volume has essentially doubled.
And
You
that's
know,
probably because of the population increase that not only you guys are seeing, but the cities across North Texas are seeing.
correct. Yeah, just in the area in general is seeing a growth in population and folks moving in, and understand too that isn't all fire calls. A vast majority is medical related, that we're going to run on medical calls and everything. So that's probably going to consume 80 to 85% of those calls are going to be medical related. Nonetheless, they tie up fire personnel while they're there addressing that. So, you know, you're on a medical call, you can't necessarily leave a patient to go deal if a fire all of a sudden comes in too. So they're committed once they're there.
Okay, I know it's much easier to sort of know in retrospect what you need, but you guys have been asking for more resources from City Hall, right?
Yes, the chief is turning in requests, and City Hall is working with us to try and accommodate that. You know, everybody's got a budget to work within, and they are doing their diligence to try and make that happen. Our chief is working with the city manager, who initially them two and finance all put together a budget proposal that they give the council for final approval. So all that's kind of in the works right now. We're just hoping that when everything shakes out, that we can get some additional staffing to help for future incidents like this.
Well, thank you very much for
Thank
joining
you.
us
I
and for
appreciate it.
talking